next debate in South Carolina could be do or die for Texas Governor Rick Perry after a serious gaffe on Wednesday in which he failed to name a third agency that he would eliminate if elected president. It was a gaffe that will be played all week long on TV and that caused his campaign to have a pretty aggressive reaction in response, with Governor Perry coming to the spin room to tell reporters, "I stepped in it." So this next debate is big, not only because he has to prove that he could be a competent commander-in-chief for this country and have good foreign policy ideas, but also he has to prove that he can be a competent debater and not make major gaffes like this on the campaign trail.
What's at stake for Herman Cain in this debate is largely unrelated to foreign policy. Obviously, the story these past couple of weeks have been this sexual harassment allegations that have been dug up from his time as CEO of the National Restaurant Association. This past debate in Michigan on Wednesday, he really received a pass on that from his opponents who just didn't want to comment on it. But Herman Cain's strategy for dealing with that was to take a much more serious approach. He wasn't throwing around the quips and the jokes like he usually does. And now when it comes to foreign policy, an area that he laughs about having no experience in and being completely okay with passing that off to advisors, he's going to have the challenge for him is going to be to prove that he can be serious in that area also, where he doesn't have any experience at all.
Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich is experiencing sort of a modest rise in the polls as of late. He's going to try to continue that. He's going to try to cement his status as a frontrunner in this upcoming debate. Traditionally, he's done very well in these debates. He's come off as extremely knowledgeable, extremely well-versed in policy.
I think you're going to see a very receptive crowd towards Romney. You know, there have been other debates where it's been a little tepid. The response has been a little bit warmer for some of the other candidates. But South Carolina has a very strong military presence. And Romney, over the last couple of weeks, has laid out this spending policy in which he said that he's hoping to cut $500 billion from the federal government's budget if he becomes president. And in so doing, by keeping those savings, he'd actually like to spend some of them in the Department of Defense. He knows that there are a lot of programs across the country that he'd like to cut, but he knows one place where he'd really like to spend the money, and that's in the military.
This debate is huge for Jon Huntsman because the legitimacy of his credentials is on the line. This is a guy who's led in foreign policy under 4 presidents, including most recently as ambassador to China under President Obama. So where Huntsman's failing to see a rise in the polls, both nationally and in New Hampshire, where he's placed all his chips, and is getting largely ignored at these other debates, this is a chance, especially considering the fact that when it comes to China and Afghanistan, his views are outside the Republican mainstream. This is his chance to really stand out.
One of the things that happened at the last debate where Senator Santorum can capitalize on is the fact that Governor Rick Perry had a big flop where he paused and was trying to gather his thoughts and ended up getting lost in them. Now with that, it has many people suggesting that Governor Perry might not be the person that the social conservative base was asking for, but maybe for Rick Santorum, it might be him, and that's something that he's going to try to prove at this debate.
Saturday night's debate is an important one for Michele Bachmann. She continues to lag in the polls, but the good news for her is that some of her competitors have also been stumbling lately. Rick Perry had another poor debate performance on Wednesday night, and Herman Cain continues to be plagued by the sexual harassment scandal. There are a lot of undecided voters in the early voting states, including Iowa and South Carolina, and if Bachmann has a couple strong debate performances, she may convince some of those people to give her a second look. She continues to tout herself as the most consistent conservative while on the campaign trail, and she always tells people that there are no surprises in her background.
At this debate, Congressman Ron Paul really has nothing to lose because he's going to continue to get the support if he stays on the message that he has since 1988. One of the things that he always has vowed is that he's not a flip-flopper, and he's always been on the same issues before.